Live. Thank you so much for being here. I have two amazing guests today. You know, when I think about all the guests I've had, and I've had over 100 since this show began, the day sheltering in place began, one of the things they have in common, other than being kind, compassionate, fabulous people, because those are the only people that are going to get on this show, are the fact that they're all doing some good in their community, whether it's a doctor that's teaching plant-based diets or just somebody that's just doing whatever. They're all people that are doing good. And I met this young lady about 9 years ago, the first time I spoke at Vegetarian Summerfest. And she really impressed me because she was so articulate as a speaker. She's like the host of Summerfest, basically. But she's also very compassionate and kind. And, you know, there's a lot of judgment of vegans sometimes against other vegans, which is crazy because if we're going to bash anybody, why are we bashing each other? But she's not like that. And I know you're going to love her. She's the author of 2 cookbooks, which are actually very quick and easy recipes. She's going to do some from. One is called Tofu 123, and one is called the 4-ingredient vegan. She's got me beat. I always try to do 7 ingredients or less. And I wore a very special t-shirt for her today. Please welcome Maribeth Abrams and her niece, Rachel Wells. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, AJ. Thanks.
Hi, thank you.
It's been 2 years since we've seen each other, and you were the one that actually awarded me my honor of I'm looking at it over there, the Vegan Hall of Fame. You were the one that did it. You did such a beautiful job at doing that. Thank you.
Well, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned that, AJ, because putting together that award was so nice for me, because for months, you know, I researched you, I watched all these interviews that you had done online, I read intros to your books, I read articles that you had written, and it was really cool because, you know, you and I don't know each other really well. We're sort of like in between acquaintances and friends. So when I was doing all that research, I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. So I felt like I knew you really, really well. And I remember when I saw you, when like one of the first days of Summerfest, I was like, AJ, hi. And you were like, hi, Maribeth.
I swear, I wish I had known I was going to get that award, because no makeup, sweatsuit, getting ready to go home. And it was like, oh, when you said, and they're from a chef from LA, I'm sitting in the back row. I'm like, no, not tonight. But thank you so much. You're such a good host. You know, you should have a show because you are just really good. I actually watched a video of yours in preparation for this. And I'm surprised it doesn't have very many views on YouTube, but we're going to change that. You gave a talk in Rochester about eating in alignment with your values, and it's excellent.
You know, I remember that talk, and I love going up to Rochester. One reason is because my son went to school up there, but also because my friends, the Barnetts, live up there, and some other people that I know. It's a nice place to visit. It's a wonderful town, great vegan restaurant up there that we love, you know, the Red Fern. And, but with that talk, living in alignment with your values, I love giving that talk. I used to give a lot of nutrition presentations, but these days there are so many amazing nutritionists out there and dietitians and doctors that I feel like that's not really where I need to be anymore. And so even though I have those qualifications, I've preferred that when I do give a talk, that it's more about living in alignment with our values, which is a talk that I think is hard, which is a subject that's hard for a lot of people to talk about, because it's kind of like, where do you start, you know, when you want to talk about that? Where do you even begin your presentation? Where's the logical flow? And after reading Melanie Joy's book, why do we think it's Love Dogs,
Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, Wear Cows.
Yes, that book was a game changer for me, because when I read it, I thought, here's the logic stream as to how I could actually do a presentation on that topic. And it's actually gone really well a number of times. So thank you for mentioning that too.
Yeah, I'm going to post a link to it. It's a really excellent talk, and you do it in a very inclusive, non-judgmental, compassionate way. You're not beating people over the head.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what are you guys going to cook for us today?
Well, let's see. I'm going to do 2 recipes, but Rachel's going to do 2 also. Rachel, why don't you talk about your recipes first?
So the first recipe I'll be doing is a roasted butternut squash with a cashew cream sauce on top. And the second one will be Vietnamese fresh rolls, except, you know, minus the shrimp, and add some tofu instead with a peanut sauce.
Well, that sounds amazing. And Rachel, be sure to speak a little bit loudly, because you're a soft-spoken person and we want to be able to hear you.
Okay. She's not normally soft-spoken. This is her first time on cooking show. I think she's going to you know, I have to say something about Rachel. Rachel is a high school senior. Well, she just about to graduate. Graduated?
Yeah.
About to graduate?
Technically graduated, I think.
Done with classes.
Yeah.
There will be some kind of graduation coming up. Rachel is the person who comes home from work and thinks about what she wants. Comes home from school. That was a Freudian slip because it's like you do work also, of course. We'll have to talk about that. But Rachel is the kind of person who would come home from school and do her homework and then think about, what do I want to make for dinner tonight? And then cook like an entree and a side dish and a dessert, so that when mom comes home from work and her brothers like wander in, there's like a giant meal already prepared. And she does it really because she wants to, not necessarily because she has to. She just loves doing that. So I'm really excited that you're here, Rachel.
Thank you.
Well, I can't wait to see what you're making.
Okay, so should we dive in?
Dive in, baby.
All right. So we're going to start with one of the recipes from the 4-ingredient cookbook, which is called the white bean nacho dip, white bean nacho dip. And what I want to say about this one is, you know how when you go to the store, there's about 500 flavors of hummus, like one of which is actually chocolate, which I've never tried. It just doesn't turn me on for some reason.
It's really good.
Oh, it is good?
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to try it. There's like all these, different flavors of hummus. But the interesting thing is that, I kind of like foods that have a cheesy taste. And I'm like, there's no real cheesy hummus out there. But this white bean nacho spread is kind of like making hummus, but it's got a cheesy nacho cheese flavor.
It sounds amazing. And I just love the whole concept of your book, because I think a lot of people would eat healthier if the recipes were few ingredients and very simple.
Yes. So here's the 4 ingredients for this recipe. It is white beans. I don't know if I can see. Yep, I can see it right here. We've got white beans, which of course, cooking from scratch is really the best way to do it. If you have one of those instant pots, they're just the best. And nutritional yeast flakes, which are what are going to make it taste cheesy. And cashew butter is what gives it a little bit of richness. There was actually no cashew butter at the store because the shelves have gotten like really poorly stocked again. So we have cashews, which is probably even better. I'm just going to throw them in the food processor with everything else. And then salsa, which makes it gives it the Mexican-y flavor. So the 4 ingredients are the beans, the white beans, the nutritional yeast flakes, the cashews, and the salsa. It's just going to go in the food processor and get blended up. And that's basically it for that recipe. And this could be something that could be served on a potato with steamed broccoli, or, you can dip you could dip like red bell pepper slices into it. Use it as a little cheese spread, but it's the consistency of hummus and it tastes cheesy. So I'm just going to grab the food processor here, and Rachel and I were talking before we got started about the noise that the food processor makes.
Oh, but there seems to be a feature on Zoom that for some reason when people are blending, it knocks it out. It's been really weird. I didn't know that, so don't worry about that. And there's a question from Mariette, are you using a particular kind of white bean?
Oh, these are great northern beans, but it doesn't matter what kind of white bean you use. Navy beans would also be fine. The main thing is that the white beans are good for this recipe because they don't have a lot of flavor. White beans are kind of bland, just like cashews are kind of bland. They don't have if you think about like a cashew compared to a peanut or a walnut, you can imagine that cashews have much less flavor. So the beans and the cashews don't have a lot of flavor. All the flavor comes from the nutritional yeast flakes and the salsa, which is what makes it taste like the cheese dip. You know what? If you made this with a different kind of bean, it would still be delicious. It just wouldn't taste exactly the same. So we've got the beans in there. I'm just going to add a little bit of the cashews. So I think it's like about a half a cup of nutritional yeast flakes, a cup of the salsa. And this is really great. If it doesn't, what we can do? Could you plug that in right over there? Because we could actually turn it on right here. That's really cool that the food processor doesn't.
Well, maybe it does, because I actually heard that. I spoke too soon.
We'll bring it over there. Yeah, we'll bring it over there.
It's still going to be loud.
It won't be quite as bad.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's a really easy 4-ingredient one. you know what we'll do? I'll go over there and blend that. And maybe Rachel will talk about your next. What do you usually do when something's blending in your show?
Well, actually, we're not hearing it anymore. Usually I just talk to the people and I welcome them and I say, thank you guys so much for being here. And Sweet Potato Sister, a shout out. She's recovering from surgery and we hope you will recover very quickly and feel good and eat lots of plants. And people are saying we have a very nice community here, and we do. The guests are nice and the Zoomunity is nice. And if we get somebody that isn't, guess what? There's a little button where we can just get them away from us. So if you guys see any of those trolls, let me know. And there's a block button. So welcome, Sweet Potato Sister. I love your name. So
we are all set with our blending. So I am going to just show you guys what it looks like. And there we go. There we go right there.
Oh my God, that looks so good. And it was so, it's like you need that button from Staples. Easy.
Yes. Oh, that's right. What does that thing say? That was easy. That was easy. You're right. I mean, it doesn't get it, but it doesn't get any easier than that. But this is, the interesting thing is there's so many flavors of hummus out there, but none of them really have a real cheesy flavor. And this does, and it costs less to make than buying hummus. And it probably takes a lot less time than actually going to the store and buying hummus.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
have to go buy the rest of the ingredients.
Yeah. And the other cool thing is that salsa you could already have in your house. Cashews you could already have in your house.
Yeah. And even, salsa is so easy to make, tomato, onion.
Yes, of course. I'm sorry. So you don't even really have these could be ingredients that you already have in the house. Yeah. So that's a good
Rachel,
one.
there's a question how you got interested in cooking at such a young age.
Well, I think I got interested in cooking because, well, like my dad is a great chef and he always used to be in the kitchen making food, and I always be his little helper. Like I'd help measure the ingredients, and then I just started to experiment on my own and figure out some new recipes. And I'd go out to eat at restaurants. I'd find something I really liked, like the fresh rolls, and then I would just recreate it at home so I could have it anytime I wanted, really. And then my just love for cooking just grew, and now it's one of my favorite things to do, I think.
Do you have any plans for pursuing that? Or are you, I mean, it must be so weird now with the sheltering. Like what happens? Do you go to college? How is that even working for kids?
Well, I plan to hopefully still go to college for accounting, actually. But, maybe in my future, I can see opening up a restaurant. I'm not sure yet. But
well, you have to decide before this broadcast is over. So you have another about 45 minutes to let everybody know. I'm kidding. Of course, you're adorable.
Oh, also, do you want to tell Chef AJ where you have started working this summer?
Oh, I recently started working actually just a couple weeks ago at Divine Treasures, which is a vegan, gluten-free European chocolate store in Manchester, which also specializes in soft serve, vegan cheese, and also just like various desserts and frozen meals, and also of course the chocolate, which is
wow. Is that in New Hampshire, Manchester?
Oh, Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut. Okay. All right. That's amazing.
But yeah, I've only been there for a couple weeks and it's still like in place.
So were you born vegan, Rachel?
Yes, I was born and raised vegan since the age of birth, and I've never purposefully eaten dairy before. I've never even touched meat before. I do not plan to for the rest.
But you're not worried about where you get your protein?
No, I get most of my protein from like various vegan meats from the brand Gardein. I get a lot of the vegan like chicken. I replace that. I use tofu, peanut butter, nuts, beans, just other things that give me protein other than meat.
Right. I was actually, being facetious because I've heard that for the 43 years I was vegan. Where do you get your protein? I actually interviewed Dr. Michael Clapper yesterday for one of the summits that I'm hosting. And he said there's no such thing as a failed vegan that was born vegan. In other words, the people that leave veganism, maybe because they have health problems or whatever, but somebody that's born vegan, I'm guessing you're in really good health. You look great.
Oh yeah, I'm healthy as can be.
Yeah. I would say healthy as a horse, but I'm trying to get away from having sayings that use animals. Well, you look great. So you're going to make something for us as well.
Yes, I will be making. Yes, I'll be making a cashew cream sauce. I like to put it on roasted butternut squash, which I already have made here.
And you know, I was asking Rachel before she started cooking the butternut squash, like if she uses oil or not, because I know that we're trying not to, we don't use oil. And she's like, use oil? Why would I use oil? I'm roasting a butternut squash. Who ever heard of using oil? I'm
I know. I love that. It's like when you go to like Chipotle and you get the beans and the rice, they have oil in it. And if you talk to people like that cook beans and rice all the time, they're like, why would you put oil in it? Like it's crazy, isn't it?
There was oil in
It tastes just as good without oil.
Yeah. You're not only beautiful, you're smart. And everybody's saying that you both have beautiful smiles. So.
Okay, so for the cashew cream sauce, I have roughly a cup of cashews, go in the blender, around a third cup of nutritional yeast, and
How much water do you need?
and then around a third cup of red miso paste. And then I usually add some water just to thin it out a little bit so it's not too thick. And I don't know, around like a cup or so. And then this just gets blended. But the blender is very loud, so.
You want me to blend it for you?
Yes.
And you can talk about all the different things that you put cashew cream on.
Oh, yes. Cashew cream is one of like my favorite toppings to put on anything. It's good on pasta for like a creamy pasta.
Yeah, it does work, guys. Somehow when the blending starts, it really does stop all the noise on their side. So I have to come on and talk to you. And I was just going to type Sherry Master. Thank you so much for always making kind comments and sharing. And guys, if you're on Facebook, please consider sharing. There is a share button. And I don't know if you can share for YouTube or not. So Stacy says, I love watching everything. And your husband and I are not your husband and I. That doesn't sound good. Your husband and you are new to whole food plant-based. So welcome. So that looks like they're back. I feel like one of those reporters in the field. And back from Connecticut, we have Rachel and Maribeth.
There we go.
All right. So the cashew cream sauce is blended up. It's the consistency of a thick sauce, I'd say. Sounds about right. So then I'll just take my squash or a couple pieces of my roasted squash, but just go in the toaster oven for around a half hour or so. And then pretty much all you do is you pour the cashew cream over the butternut squash and you enjoy it just like that.
Oh boy, that looks amazing.
Isn't it cool? She just like says, you know, I'm going to make some roasted butternut squash and I'm going to make some cashew cream and let's watch a movie. I mean, it's amazing being in the same house as Rachel.
Because it's just so simple to make and it tastes good. So if I want it, I'll just quickly make some, eat it, and just have leftovers for later.
Can you say something about dark miso versus light miso, which one you would use, or does it even matter, that kind of thing?
Well, in terms of using miso for the cashew cream, pretty much any miso works. I usually just use whatever we have in the fridge, but dark miso, it's more like rich and the sauce comes out darker versus light miso, which is a bit more light, obviously, and the sauce comes out more of like a creamy white color as opposed to.
And for people that are allergic to soy, you can get brown rice miso, you can get azuki beans miso, you can even get low sodium miso.
Any of the miso works as long as it's just miso.
Can I tell the butternut squash story that when we were getting ready for this cooking show, Chef AJ, we were doing our prep and everything, and Rachel said, can you go ahead and cut the butternut squash for me? I'm like, of course. I said, how do you want it? And she said, well, cut the big end off and then, do this and do that. She's like, we'll just cook the skinnier parts. I'm like, what do you do with the big end? And she goes, oh, just put that part in the refrigerator for later. I'm like, well, that's why we have like 2 or 3 of the big ends in the refrigerator. But squash actually does not generally get thrown away. It always gets used up, but I thought that was really funny.
The one in the fridge now has been there for like a week.
Excellent. Wonderful.
All right.
So now we'll go to the sesame cabbage. Oh, here's this. AJ, I would like to give a shout out to the cookbook that inspired this recipe. And this recipe is in the 4-ingredient cookbook, but originally what inspired me was this book right here. Do you know this cookbook right here, May All Be Fed by John Robbins?
Oh, I think I have it. It's an older one. Absolutely.
An oldie. This was, I became vegan about 30 years ago, and this was one of the vegan cookbooks that was available back then. There were probably about 5, and that was it. But this was one of them. It was one of the originals. It followed that book, Diet for a New America, that he had written, that a lot of people became vegan after they read it, myself included. But this was sort of like his cookbook that came after that. And actually the person who writes the recipes is, what is her name? Oh, Gia Patton. I don't know who she is, but her name is on the cover too. Anyway, this recipe that we're about to do right now from the 4-ingredient vegan is actually inspired from a recipe in this cookbook called peppered cabbage. And it's phenomenal. And it was a recipe that I, started making a long time ago, but it wasn't until I started spending a lot more time with my sister and Rachel and her 2 brothers, Reed and Harrison, that I realized that they make it all the time. And I started eating it again because they make it. It's like, why did I ever stop making that? It's phenomenal. And a lot of people don't eat purple cabbage that often unless they're making some kind of a really cool like Thai coleslaw thing or something, which is great. But this is something you can do with steamed coleslaw. I've steamed on purple cabbage. That's really, really good.
I like purple cabbage the best. And it's just so beautiful and it's delicious too.
So good. So for this recipe, the 4 ingredients are, let's see, we have that in the bowl. We have steamed purple cabbage, which this just steamed over the past 15 minutes or so. Got steamed purple cabbage, and actually I probably should have made this, I'll use this right here. And then we'll make the sauce in here. The other 3 ingredients are tahini and miso and nutritional yeast flakes. Surprise, surprise, we're using there's like a little, can you notice a little pattern here? There's a lot of miso tea. I never really thought that we relied on that stuff so much. It's funny. I was doing a cooking class once, a bunch of years ago, and one of the ladies who had come to the class said, if I have 2 kids, I'm going to name them Miso and Tahini. Miso and Tahini, like they sound kind of like names. But to make sauce for the cabbage, it's about 1/3 cup of tahini, and it is about 2 tablespoons of miso. And I'm just going to sprinkle the and a little bit of liquid. And the best liquid is actually the liquid from the cabbage that that it's steamed in. And I'm just going to stir it together. This bowl is probably a little bit smaller than what we normally use.
You want me to grab a bigger one?
That's okay, hon. I think we're all right. There we go. It makes a little bit of a paste. A little tiny bit more liquid. It makes the cabbage absolutely lush. Okay, that's good. And all right, here you'll add that. First, I'll toss this all together. So we have this on here. We just need a big spoon. Thank you. If somebody wants to try making this, it's best if the cabbage was just steamed. Don't steam the cabbage way in advance because you kind of rely on it still being really hot and wet. Okay. All right, Newt.
Say, did you just call it Newt?
Newt.
Nooch, yeah, that's the nickname for nutritional yeast.
Is it like Newt yeast? What do you call it?
I just call it Newt yeast. I don't call it Newt.
Newt yeast, not just Newt.
Not just Newt, no.
What's funny is that my boyfriend Ted calls it yeaflay.
That is hilarious.
Give me yeaflay. Oh, Harrison, why don't you come say hi? There's lots of people walking around right now. We got a whole family filled of vegans. This is Harrison.
Hello.
Hi. Is that your son?
Oh, this is my brother.
Oh, your nephew.
Yes.
And he's vegan too?
Yes.
Well, and he's tall, so obviously it didn't stunt his growth like people get accused of.
Yeah,
He goes to the gym every morning too.
Wow.
And runs. He's become a big runner.
That is so. So did you guys, well, come back, Harrison. One second. Is Harrison younger than Rachel?
Yes, he is 15.
I'm 16.
Okay, so I'm going to have two boys on tomorrow that are teenagers raised vegan. Do you feel like it was difficult? Like, did your peers tease you or challenge you, or how was that like? Because that's a really important issue for people with kids because they don't want their kids to be different.
There was a little bit of teasing and stuff, but nothing too serious and nothing that actually hurt.
And now you're big enough to take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, tofu boy.
Yeah, big tofu muscles.
Okay, thank you. He's adorable. God, you have great. This is just it's so exciting to see. I love seeing like real people in the real world doing this, you know.
These guys are awesome. So this is the sesame purple cabbage right there.
Oh God, I wish I didn't do this show right before lunch because I just get so hungry when I see these things.
Wonderful. And now we're going to go back to Rachel.
Yes, I will be making as everyone calls them, my famous fresh rolls. I got the idea for these after going to many Thai restaurants, ordering the fresh roll and just not being satisfied enough. So I decided to make my own, which are definitely up to my standards.
And while Rachel's getting her, bringing her ingredients up, I have to say that when my family goes out to a Thai restaurant, we have up to a bunch of people because it would maybe be me, perhaps my boyfriend, my two kids who are also vegan since birth in their 20s, my sister, her 3 kids. There could be any number of other people with us and we're all vegan. And so when we're ordering in the Thai restaurant, it's all about no egg, no fish sauce. This person orders and it says no egg, no fish sauce. And that person orders this no egg, no fish sauce. And we actually thought about making t-shirts that said like no egg, no fish sauce. But I don't like having a shirt that says no something. You know what I mean? I'm more of a yes kind of a person than a no kind of a person. All right.
Okay.
You.
So the first part of the fresh rolls is making the actual roll. The second part, the peanut sauce, will come after. So first I take a spring roll wrapper. You can find these in like any grocery store. They're just like thin rice paper noodles, and I put them in a bowl of warm water for just around 15 to 20 seconds so they can soak and get softer so I can mold them around my fillings. So that's going on right now.
You actually do a really good job of rolling those things up. Mine sometimes come out looking like a plastic bag with not a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, it's really difficult to get it to be exactly perfect because if it's too hard, then the rice wrapper will crack, but if it's too soft, then it will rip, and then it just doesn't turn out too well. So this is probably good because even after you take it after the water, it will still be a little bit soft. So I laid it out on my flat sheet, and first I grab some thin rice noodles, which are the base that you can find pretty much any fresh roll you get anywhere you go. So you put a couple forkfuls of that on it. You don't want to put too much, otherwise the roll will rip. And then you have all of your other fillings. You have carrots, add a few carrots. I always like to slice my vegetables very thin. I always like to slice them.
Yeah, it's fine. You can walk all the way through.
I slice them very thin.
We're
so
just
that they're
talking
easier
to somebody. It's okay.
I can't pay. Oh, wow. He doesn't have a shirt on. Tell him to come closer.
Come say hi to Chef AJ. Just come say hi.
What are those marks?
She's a famous vegan chef. This is Reed. He just woke up.
Hi. Are you the other brother?
Yes,
I am, yes.
Are you older?
Yes, 20.
Wow. And you were raised vegan, huh? That's so awesome. Thank you for being vegan. How has it been for you? Was it a difficult childhood?
I'd say until I was like 14. Yeah. But then it was.
How did you handle it then?
I don't know. Try to keep quiet about it mostly. I think that's what worked for me.
Are you happy you're vegan now?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being a guy and being vegan. I'm sure you probably heard of or saw the movie Game Changers.
Oh, Game
Mm,
Changers. That's with all the athletes. By the way, this is a cooking show that's being live streamed.
Yeah, you're on YouTube. You only got about 400 people watching, so don't worry, it's not a big deal. That's all right.
no, I don't think I've seen that movie.
I believe it's on Amazon Prime and Netflix, but I think you might like it.
I'll look into it.
He just woke up.
That's hilarious.
Pop in, but he's a little out of it right now. Okay, Rachel.
Okay, so while Reed was talking, I finished up the fresh roll. It's all very nicely wrapped up.
That's beautiful.
It has romaine lettuce, mint, tofu, carrot, cucumber, and the rice noodles. And the most important part of a fresh roll is the peanut sauce. You can't have a good fresh roll without good peanut sauce. So for that, we will need mixing bowl. It's
And for those of you that can't eat peanuts, either maybe you have an allergy or trying to do lower in fat, just a few weeks ago, I did a recipe on this YouTube channel called SOS Free Thai Peanut Sauce, and it's made out of chestnuts, which are very low in fat and are, I guess, chestnuts are a fruit. Do you know what chestnuts are, Maribeth? Because they're not really a nut.
I don't know. I've only used chestnuts, I think like once ever. So I'm going to look up your recipe and I'm going to make that because I really want to taste it. I'm excited about it. The thought of doing SOS peanut sauce is incredible. And it's chestnuts that I just don't think about using.
Yeah. Okay. So the sauce is key. That's where we get our flavor.
I use rice vinegar. Goes in the bowl. Tamari soy sauce. Some coconut aminos also.
Rachel, there's a question from Joy. Were the veggies that you put in fresh vegetables or did you steam them?
They're fresh vegetables. That's why it's so important to cut them so thin so that you're not breaking your tooth trying to bite like a large carrot in your fresh roll. It's got to cut it really thin so that it's easier to manage when you eat it.
You know, this is an important question, Rachel, from Meredith. I keep trying to convince my teens to adopt this diet and they completely push back. They won't even allow me to educate them. I wonder how Rachel did at a friend's homes that aren't vegan.
Well, I've actually made a couple of my friends turn vegan or vegetarian. They watch me do it and they see how I do it so easily and I'm still so healthy. And then they think that, wow, that's really cool that you can do that and you can be an animal lover and you can still be healthy and enjoy food without having to eat animals. So actually a few of my friends, they watch me and then they've started to cut out meat and dairy from their diets as well. And a few of them I don't talk to anymore, but they still are vegan and vegetarian to my knowledge. So for teens, it's like more importantly, like telling them that it's still like a normal thing. Like they're not going to be weird. They're not going to be bullied for being vegan. It's actually like, now it's actually like a cool thing. Like someone tells you you're vegetarian and they're like, wow, that's really cool compared to just being a meat eater like everyone else and cares about too much.
Well, maybe you can write a cookbook for teens.
That's true because teens, they don't like a lot of the traditional vegan cooking. Like their teens aren't going to go out and enjoy like a lentil something. They'd rather have like mac and cheese. They'd rather have grilled cheese, BLT, like foods that teens enjoy, which are harder to find in the vegan world, like chicken nuggets, things that kids like to eat, which is just harder to find because people think that being vegan, you have to eat like all vegetables, all healthy, nothing's going to taste good, but that's quite the opposite.
Yep. Great.
Talk about your experience going to the the vegan Summerfest, I should say. It used to be called the Vegetarian Summerfest. Now it's called the Vegan Summerfest.
Well, I don't remember it, but I think when I was like 2 or 3, I went for the first time. I don't remember anything about it until around a few years back, I went back and I met a lot of really cool teens and people who I hung out with and just really got to know like other people like me who've been growing up vegan for their whole lives or been vegan through childhood and their teenage years. And it was nice getting to know people because I felt like I wasn't the only one anymore who was a vegan teen, and it just felt nice to be like part of another group. And it was really nice learning about everything and going to the talks with my friends and enjoying pizza and everything else that the chefs made at the Summerfest.
And then they got into a little mischief at night after dark.
Yeah, the security guards weren't big fans of us there.
Teenagers having fun, but you know what, in like sort of like a wholesome way, but still mischievous.
We didn't do anything wrong.
No, they didn't do anything wrong.
But that just goes to show that you can be vegan and still have fun. You don't have to be boring.
Exactly.
We found some little like cabin in the woods or something, and kind of got up onto the roof, and we're hanging out on the roof and kind of got.
We also had fireworks.
Oh, that's right. There were fireworks involved. So what you doing there?
All right. So I added all of my ingredients after the tomatoes and the rice vinegar. I also added my smooth peanut butter and a little bit of cayenne pepper just for some heat. And now all I have to do is just whisk it up, and then it will be complete for the fresh roll. It will take a while to whisk though, because the peanut butter gets all difficult.
Do you want me to whisk while you talk?
No.
Okay.
It has to be done a certain way.
Tilt it a little bit so people can see what you're doing a little.
Rowene says, you guys make it so simple, and she's inspired. Thank you, Meredith and Rachel.
You know what? It actually really is simple. I mean, Rachel, like I sort of was describing before, it's just like an after-school cook. Like, okay, what do I want to make? I'll grab a little of this, grab a little of that, and just whip it up. It's not about shopping all day and spending hours making something. It really is simple.
It's mostly about just seeing what I have in the kitchen already and just working with that to make something new usually.
Oh, you know what I want to ask actually Rachel about, because I remember how I did it with my kids. My kids are a little older. They don't live here anymore. But with Rachel, what about zoos? What did you guys do about zoos like growing up? Did you go to the zoo? Were you invited to the zoo? What did you do?
I think I've only been to the zoo like once with a field trip in 5th grade. Because I didn't really want to be left out, but I was like younger then and didn't really have much of an opinion on zoos or what the truths behind them were and how cool they actually were to the animals. But now that I'm older, I realize that I'm not a big fan of zoos. I'm not a fan of them at all. I think that it's pretty much animal cruelty. Like, they should not be in a zoo. They should be out there. And I wish I realized that at a younger age, but I just didn't happen to learn about it until more recently.
Can I share a story about what happened with my kids, Ivy and Rory, when they were growing up regarding the zoo?
Absolutely.
When I raised them vegan, part of raising them vegan was talking to them about why they were vegan. And, we talked about animals and how they have their own lives for their own right. And then how I didn't really believe in zoos. And I kind of passed that belief down to my kids, just like every single parent passes their beliefs down to their kids. It's not just vegans that do that. Every parent passes their beliefs down to their kids. I just wanted to make that distinction because sometimes you hear, oh, you're brainwashing your kids. Well, if that's brainwashing, then every single parent is brainwashing their kids because every single parent passes their values down to their kids. And so it was interesting. So I kind of raised my kids with the notion that really zoos were not a positive thing and why. And so they never went to the zoo, but then when they were probably, I think, maybe like 8 and 10, 7 and 9, we had a relative that really wanted to bring them to the zoo. And one of the things that I had done in raising my kids vegan was to also raise them to be critical thinkers and to make their own decisions. And so my kids said, you know what, we got invited to go to the zoo. I said, okay, do you want to go? And they said, yes. I said, okay, then go to the zoo. So they went to the zoo, but this was after years of us talking about zoos. And I didn't really know what was going on in their heads. But apparently when they got to the zoo, they were they just wanted to see if it was really what I had been talking about all those years. Like all that stuff that, mom and dad have been saying about zoos, is that even really true? They wanted to see it in their own eyes. And apparently, as soon as they got in there and they saw animals living behind bars, this is at 8 and 10, they laid down right there on their back, laid down, and just started like screaming. And said, we're not going in. We don't want to go any further. We want to go out of here. We don't want, and the relatives that were with them were like, just get off the ground. Come on, we just got in. We just paid $15. We want to get out of here. We don't want to be. It was sort of like they were having like a demonstration, basically. They just did it spontaneously. And so, I hear from other parents who are raising vegan kids, how they handle zoos is all very different. Some might say, we don't believe in zoos. We don't want to contribute to them financially, so we don't go. Others have, they've had kids who have been invited to the zoo as part of a field trip, and the parent says, well, okay, I'm going to go as one of the parent supervisors, so they can kind of plant little seeds, like say, I wonder, what do you think of this? Just asking critical thinking questions, not saying, oh, that's bad, but wow, everybody, here's an animal in a cage. What does everybody think? Just sort of pointing out facts and saying, what do you think? Just to inspire conversation. What I did with my kids simply was just to educate them about it so that when they went, they kind of looked around and did their own critical thinking. But it's one of those interesting topics that comes up with raising vegan kids.
That is something. I did something once like that, but we'll share about it another time. This is your episode, but good for them. Do they remember doing that as grown-ups now?
I'm not sure. I wonder if they do. I'm going to have to ask them.
Okay, well, maybe they can come on sometime. Rachel, we have a request from Ines. If you could cut one of your spring rolls open so they can see the inside.
Or sharp knife. Let's see if there's one here.
So it's best to cut the fresh rolls after they've already been sitting for a while so that they're more firm. But yeah, I'll cut it.
And there's a question from Angela. If you ever tried PB2 or another powdered peanut butter for the peanut sauce?
I don't think I have tried anything. I usually just use whatever peanut butter we have on hand in the house. Sometimes it may not be the most healthy peanut butter, but it's what we have. And I think any peanut butter will work just the same. Just get the peanut flavor in the sauce.
And do you know what kind of tofu you happen to be using?
You know what? Give a shout out to Bridge because they're so awesome and they're local.
I mean, I would prefer to be using Bridge tofu right now because it is like the best, most firm tofu that there is. But I'll go check on the brand. I know it might be
Nasoya or the store brand.
Mary Beth, I just want to give you a shout out for the YouTube talk that you did that, I posted a comment that people need to see this talk and I'm posting the link for it because you said something really profound that I never thought about before, which is that if animal products, if meat and dairy and chicken and pork had warning labels like cigarettes do from the Surgeon General, then maybe people would really think about it before they ate it.
Yeah, it's like warning. This product causes, environmental degradation. Warning, this product is linked to, breast cancer and prostate cancer. You could have serious labels on meat that are very similar to cigarette labels. And the irony is that it's so commonplace to see those labels on cigarettes. It's kind of just taken as fact. Like, yeah, of course, this product is going to cause all these problems. It's interesting. Dr. Michael Greger does this wonderful presentation. You probably know about it, where he compares the meat industry to the cigarette industry or to the tobacco industry in terms of the research that's done to show just how harmful these products are and trying to come up with their own research to counter that and get that research to be pushed as far ahead as possible, and how money plays such a huge role in it. But there's no question in my mind that eventually meat is going to have the warning labels that cigarettes have, and it will just become known as fact.
And you know what else was interesting in your talk, and I keep posting the link because I really hope you guys will watch it, and especially because of the pandemic, you talked about how you asked the audience, how do we decide which animals are food and which animals are friends? And we have, at least in the United States, certain animals we eat and certain animals we don't. But when you think about the cause of this pandemic, it was from eating animals that aren't even the animals that we're, quote, and in quotes, supposed to eat. You know what I mean?
It's a really good point. Like, why is it that we think that eating a cow is sort of okay and normal, but eating a bat isn't. I mean, people eat pheasants, they might eat chickens, they eat other kinds of, they eat all different kinds of animals that are running around out there. But when it comes down to choosing which animals we eat and which animals we don't eat, there's really nothing that causes us to make that decision other than somebody else said that's the way it should be. We don't question it. I think I use that analogy when we go to the store to buy toothpaste. We might sit there for 5 minutes, at least I sometimes do, like, which toothpaste should I buy? This brand or that brand? And this one says, this one whitens your teeth, but that one is good for your gums. And this one over here is fluoride free. And this one, and we think about which one do I want to buy and say, I'm a educated consumer. I'm really going to read these labels and figure out what I want. But when it comes down to whether or not you should eat this animal or not eat that animal, nobody's like an educated consumer. Everyone's like, well, I don't know, my parents did or my friends do, so I'm going to do it too. I mean, it's just completely not questioned at all. And if you think about why somebody would eat one animal or another, it has nothing to do with their intelligence, because we eat a lot of animals that are probably more intelligent than humans are. It has nothing to do with their ability to suffer. They all feel pain the same. There's no logic to it other than somebody else said it was the right thing to do.
And it's so interesting because I have my little dog on my lap, and yet most people in this country would be mortified if people took their dog to eat it. Yet in other countries, that's what they eat.
We have no right to criticize another culture for eating dogs. We could criticize them for how they treat animals in general, but we should be criticizing ourselves for the exact same thing. We can't say how horrifying is it that you eat dogs. They have feelings, they have personalities, they feel pain, look at their eyes, look at the fear. You could say that those exact same things for every single animal that we eat here. And there's no such thing as compassionate killing either.
Or humane meat, or I talked about that with Dr. Clapper, or hormone or antibiotic free milk, all that stuff. And I love how you talked about turning apathy into empathy.
Oh yeah, you're right. We are an apathetic society. We don't think about it. We go about blindly. It's like we're in the Matrix. Remember like that movie, The Matrix, a long time? We're in that, doing this. We're depending on animals for so many of our needs, and it's all happens behind the scenes. And then something just shows up in a nice little box, or in a nice little plate. We don't think about where it really came from, what's going on behind the scenes. And I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, that's right. We're just completely apathetic. And it is true that if something is really horrifying, like if we go through a horrifying experience, we kind of block it out of our memory. We have to build up sort of a strength against it to be able to survive. Like if somebody's in an abusive situation, they adopt different personalities. We have whatever defense mechanisms are required to get through that. But when it comes to not wanting to see the horror of the slaughterhouse or how we treat animals before and during the slaughterhouse, that it would serve a purpose. It would be beneficial for us to do that. We don't have to be distanced from that emotionally, because if we avail ourselves to it, we could turn that apathy into empathy. And I believe that we are creatures of empathy. We are born empathic people. If I see a spider on Rachel's face, I'm going to go, ooh, that's creepy, because I could almost feel it myself. Like if I saw you get hit by a car, that's horrible. Why did I think of that example?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, luckily I'm not driving during this shelter.
If any of us saw something that happened to somebody on the news today, we see things happening to people. When we see that, we can almost feel it, and we have empathy for that person. And that's biological. That is inherent in us. We're hardwired to feel empathy. So in us not wanting to see what's going on behind the curtain, so to speak, when it comes to producing meat, that is sort of like bypassing what should be a natural tendency of ours. We should look. I love that expression. I think it was Melanie Joy who said it, that in terms of witnessing what's really going on in animal food production. The same reason that we don't want to look at it is the same reason that on some level we do want to know. We want to know. We also know that if we know, we're probably going to have to change our behaviors.
Right.
But I mean, it's a really interesting topic that, I mean, I could talk for, I guess, for a long time.
Well, there's none so blind as he who will not see. I thought of a title for your next book, guys. Cooking with Compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rachel, there's a question from Janet. What type of noodles are you using? Are they right out of the package? Do you have to rinse them or cook them?
Yes, I'm using rice noodles. You can just get like anything rice noodles from the supermarket. And you cook them in boiling water until they get soft. And I usually rinse them in cold water to get them nice and cold so I can cook with them easier. And they're actually very simple to make. And they don't really have any flavor, but it's a very key ingredient for the fish roll.
Yeah. So Violet's asking if she can print out the recipes. What I do is when they give them to me, I put them in what's called the show notes in YouTube. So it takes me a little bit afterwards and it's underneath the video. It says more. So you probably, there's not a print button on YouTube, but what you can do is cut and paste and put it in a document. And so people would like to know again, what is in the spring rolls? And
so in the fresh rolls, there is chopped carrots, like thin matchstick pieces, cucumbers, lettuce. You can use any kind of lettuce. I'm just using romaine today because it's what I have on hand. You can add mint leaves or basil leaves, whichever you prefer, or none.
Or cilantro,
or
maybe.
cilantro, pretty much any like fresh herb. And also tofu, whether you use bridge or nasoya. I need like firm tofu so that it doesn't fall apart while you're making the fresh roll. And then also the rice noodles, and then just for the peanut sauce for dipping.
Oh, Bridge Tofu is a brand of tofu that's made in Middletown, Connecticut, which is like half an hour from where we live. They've been making tofu for probably, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years. I'm not even sure how long they've been making it. It's a little company. All they make is tofu and seitan, and then they make a tofu salad also. That's all they make, but their tofu is sensational. It's different from any other kind. It's like one of these artisan tofus. I know that word artisan is like heavily overused, but if I could use that word for something, it would be the Bridge Tofu. It's only in distribution.
Right. So there's a question, people really like to know what everybody eats that's on the show. So just kind of like maybe go through a day's worth of food and feel free to add exercise if you do it, and feel free to add Netflix or what you're reading, because people like to get to know you guys.
Oh, you want to start or you want me? Okay, okay. So on a typical day, I wake up and I put rolled oats into a bowl. I don't cook the oats. I don't like hot oatmeal, but I love raw oats. I put the oats into the bowl with some raisins and some milk, some unsweetened non-dairy milk, whatever I have. And then I go to the gym, and then I come home and usually eat something kind of salady with a little bit of protein in it, with a little bit of a concentrated protein in it, because I was just doing strength training. And then I'll work for a few hours. And then I'll eat something that is high in fuel, like an Ezekiel toast with banana and peanut butter. And then I'll go out on my bike for about an hour and a half. And then I'll come back and have like another salady thing with some kind of concentrated protein, and work some more, take a shower, meditate, transcendental meditation, and come back up and have a little snack and find out what's on Netflix. And that's kind of what's been going on since I've been working at home because of the social distancing and all the shutdowns. The company that I work for actually started a delivery service for seniors who couldn't risk going into the store back in the beginning of March. And we've actually made almost 500 deliveries in the past 2 months. And I'm really, really proud of the work that we've been doing. I'm excited that my boss tasked me to set that up. We've had about probably 20 different volunteers rotating through making deliveries. And we have a woman who is in her middle 80s who handles almost all of our phone calls. We probably get at least 10, 20 calls a day that she has to return and take orders over the phone. And it's really exciting. And we plan to keep it going and turn it into a 501c3 nonprofit, because we think that people who can't, seniors who really, and people with compromised immune systems who really don't have a choice and they can't go to the grocery store even now at this point, we don't want them to have to pay somebody else to do it. And we also don't want them to have to wait 2 or 3 weeks for their groceries, which they would have to do on a lot of these delivery services. So I'm really proud of the work that we've been doing, where people get their groceries usually the next day and they don't pay for the delivery.
That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Okay, so my typical day, I'll wake up at around noon.
Oh my God, what are you, Yogi Bear? I mean,
Well,
that's a cartoon. He will sleep till noon, but before it's dark.
yeah, I wake up around noon and I'll come downstairs. I'll make myself a big breakfast, usually some tofu scramble with some tempeh bacon, a bagel with margarine spread, maybe some fresh fruit on the side, yogurt. Very big breakfast. And then I'll do schoolwork for like an hour because that's all I really have to do now. And then I like to go on Netflix for 3 to 4 hours a day.
What are you watching on Netflix?
I'm watching a show now called Criminal Minds. This is my day.
Okay, I was going to say, because she works almost every single day. This is the day that she doesn't work. Okay.
Yeah, this is the day I don't work. Otherwise, when I work pretty much all day, like 6 days a week. But so my days off. So then I'll watch Netflix for a few hours. I'll get hungry. I'll venture back into the kitchen and I'll make some elaborate meal. One of my favorite meals to make is actually like a variation of the fresh roll, where I'll make the noodles, I'll chop up the carrots and the cucumber and the tofu, but instead of rolling it into the fresh roll, I'll just make it into a noodle salad and put the peanut sauce over top, which is a lot quicker, which is something I typically eat like a very large bowl of. And I'll usually have that, have that a few times a week. And then I'll go back to doing more Netflix. And then at nighttime, I'll have a fire with my friends and go to bed around 2, maybe a midnight snack somewhere around then.
Oh, that's hilarious. You're adorable. I just can't imagine getting up at noon and going to bed at 2, but I'm old. So what can I say? You guys are great. Do you have time to exercise, Rachel?
I do have time to exercise. I ride horses actually every week. I only do it once a week in the mornings when I have the time because I work all the other days, but that's the only exercise I do. Sometimes I'll go on hikes if it's a nice day, or I'll go on a walk or do a bike ride, but I usually don't. I just get lazy. So
the cool thing about Rachel and Harrison and their friends is that they do a lot of outside stuff anyway. It's not only because of the social distancing, they're always going out and like, whose house are we making a fire at? Let's go hang. They built like a nice little area in the woods with little benches, and they made like a fire pit under a big rock or something. And they do a lot of outside stuff.
Mm-hmm. So like we're pretty active in general, so I don't really find the need to like go to the gym or do specific exercise times, because I just like stay active with my friends and doing other stuff.
That's great. Thank you guys. You guys are great. If you ever want to come back, your recipes are amazing, and you guys were amazing. It was so nice catching up with you, Maribeth, because it's been a couple of years, and I just love what you guys do. And everybody can make a difference, in whether it's just helping a friend eat healthier or just, starting a nonprofit like Maribeth. You don't have to, write a book necessarily. We all can do something to make this world a better place. And those are the kind of guests you're going to see on this show. So thank guys so much.
Thank you, AJ, so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Well, you guys can come back anytime. Thank you guys so much for being here. Please come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. when we have another cooking demo with some teens. Colin McCullough is coming back for the second time because y'all asked to see his kids, and his kids will be there. And I think he's making chocolate orange bites. Take care, everybody. Hope to see you. And Rachel and Maribeth, hope to see you again soon. Take care. You got to talk when you say goodbye so we can see you.
Bye.
Okay.